thinking you been impossible.
They had such a good time together. The only problem was, that, as Dean said, he said Frank wanted to keep me up late all the time.
In January of 1960, Frank and Dean, along with Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, and Joey Bishop, brought the fun they had offstage to the Sands Hotel in Las Vegas.
I don't remember any performer being so instantly loved as Dean. If you would look at the audience when he came out, the smiles on their face in anticipation of what he was going to say or do was absolutely unbelievable.
With the meeting of all this talent on one stage, Frank called the show The Summit. The papers had another name for it, the Rat Pack.
When you were in Vegas and they were there was an excitement to the town that you could feel it was electric. The town came alive.
I like the one where the teacher said, "Tommy, you got a fairy godmother?" He said, "No, but we got an uncle we keep a close eye on." Then I should have come in, folks.
It was like an orgy of these funny guys. And there was no show. There wasn't like, you do this, I'll do this, you do that. They were just there. They sang, they kibitzed. It was the hottest ticket in the world.
Yeah, well, the way I see the thing, I'm going down to the Mystic Night to the Sea Laws there, and we're going to talk to a few people. Hey, if all the women in Texas were as ugly as your mama, the Lone Ranger's going to be alone for a long time, yeah.
By 1964, Dean Martin was one of the busiest performers in Hollywood. In 4 years, he made 15 films. There were the Rat Pack films, Ocean's 11, Sergeant's 3, 4 for Texas, and Robin and the Seven Hoods. And then there were other films like the Western Rio Bravo with John Wayne and the musical Bells Are Ringing with Judy Holliday. In private life, Dean was busy too. By then, he and Jeanie were the proud parents of 7 children. America's favorite swinger was actually a dedicated family man.
He was home every night for dinner. That was one of the things I asked of him, and he never reneged on that. We had dinner, all of us, every single night.
You knew that it wasn't like your friend, the doctor, or the pharmacist's family. You knew there was something special. And also seeing Frank Sinatra, Peter Lawford, Sammy Davis Jr., in your living room also made it a little different.
He was on the charts again, too. In true Dino fashion, he stumbled upon his first hit in years during the last minutes of a recording session.
While we were recording this album, Mood album, Dream with Dean, we get to the last song. Dean decided he didn't want to do it. Well, we had about 30 minutes left. I needed one more song. So we're discussing it out in the studio. And Dean's piano player held up his hand. And he said, "Hey, Dean, how about my song?" And Ken Lane began to play. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Ooh, that's nice. This is the one. This is the hit.
Everybody falls in love somehow.
Everybody Loves Somebody became the first single to knock the Beatles out of #1. With the record success, Dean's recording career really took off. Over the next year and a half, he'd record 7 gold albums in a row. By the mid-60s, Dean Martin was appearing in living rooms across the country with guest shots on TV's biggest variety shows. He was such a hit during an appearance at the Hollywood Palace that every network wanted him for a series of his own. He said he'd do it if he only had to show up 1 day a week, on taping day. Dean figured no network would ever go for a schedule like that. He was wrong.
Love somebody sometime. Everybody falls in love somehow.
On Thursday, September 16th, 1965, Dean made his debut as host of The Dean Martin Show on NBC.
There's no point in singing the whole song. You might not buy the record. If your picture looks a little out of focus, that's the way you look to me, too. I'll tell you that. Now, you know I'm getting tired already? No, don't laugh. I got a whole season to do this NBC show, and they ain't taking any chances.
At first, the reviews and the ratings were less than terrific.
The first 3 shows consisted of Dean singing a couple of songs, introducing a monkey act, a juggling act, a singer who hadn't been on the charts in 3 years.
After NBC fired the show's producer, Dean asked his director Greg Garrison to take over. Garrison's first order of business was to custom tailor the show to Dean.
He's a great-looking guy, and what are you going to surround a great-looking guy with? You know, you got to surround him with great-looking girls.
Before long, Dean found himself in the company of a bevy of beauties, the Gold Diggers. Their weekly frolics with Dean gave a touch of sex to prime time.
And as a matter of fact, it caused a couple of problems periodically because at dinner, sometimes Jeanie would say to Dean, "Well, who was that blonde that was paying so much attention to you?" And he would say, "Well, that was one of Greg's friends."
Another trademark of the show was Dean's lack of rehearsal.
I had New York actors ask me, they said, "Is it true that Dean doesn't rehearse with you?" I said, "No, he doesn't. He watches it sometimes in the dressing room. Greg usually would rehearse it with you. And the first time you did it live on the air."
See, my wife bought me a toupee for our anniversary, and I'd like to return it.
Well, do you have it with you, sir?
It's under the hat.
It wasn't laziness on Dean's part. It was that he wanted to be under rehearsed. He wanted to have that adrenaline rush that whatever happens, he was going to be on top of, and he was.
Would you want a full exchange?